G'day, I'm Ash, welcome back to the channel. Sorry I haven't done videos recently, kind of been a bit ill. I would have covered more stuff, but hey, it is what it is. And now the aircraft looks better with my decal on it. Anyway, welcome to the T2 Early. It's an aircraft available for, well, 9.7 in Update Fire and Ice, or should I say Update Copy and Paste. It is one of the unique vehicles that have come to the game this update, although it is a trainer aircraft and it is a two-seat aircraft. It does remind me very much of the early days when the first T2 was introduced. It's virtually identical, aside from the fact that it has limited capability. There is a couple of radar changes, but that's kind of minor, and it only gets AIM-9Es. Again, not a game breaker, they're okay missiles, but for 9.7 you're facing stuff like A-10s and Su-25s, and they have R-60s and AIM-9Ls. This thing doesn't have countermeasures. Again, like the T2 in tree, doesn't have any countermeasures, so it really doesn't, I guess, perform that well in an ideal situation, but for what it is, you get something armed with a 20mm Vulcan, with 500 rounds, and 2 AIM-9Es. Of course, you can strap bombs on it. It's got 38mm bulletproof sort of glass. 2 pilots there. You're wondering if one gets taken out, the other one can fly. That is the case, but other than that, substandard, just T2 all the way through the whole entire airframe. Modifications-wise, it is exactly the same as the previous T2. It can do everything except it's just a trainer variant. There is a little more bombs options, and you can create a custom loadout for this one, although you can only have the missiles on the wingtips, which is a damn shame, but hey, it is what it is. And there is a stat card for those of you who are interested. It gets an arrestor gear, air brakes, and a drag parachute, so that's fantastic. It's got twin engines, the same as the previous T2. Takeoff weight's 14 tons, turn time of 33 seconds, max altitude 15,000 meters, and a maximum speed of about 1,710 kilometers at 10,000 meters as well. So, you know, you can push this thing to about 1,800 if you're really lucky. And there's the stat card for anyone who's interested as well. And it does get a drag chute, air brakes, and an arrestor gear. It's quite an interesting thing. Combat flaps, takeoff flaps, landing flaps, all included with that one. The max G is plus 10, negative 4, although your wings will have a limit of about 1,400. Your gear is 577, and so on and so forth. So yeah, an overall package that is exactly the same as its tech tree variant, which honestly is not too bad, although I do wish that both variants had flares. Nevertheless, this thing is incredibly capable. It's maneuverable, it accelerates well, it has a high climb rate, and the gun is fantastic provided you can actually get hits on it, where it actually matters. And obviously it's got a variety of air-to-ground and multiple payloads, although it doesn't have any guided weaponry, which is probably its downfall. Anyway, because it has poor engine retention and low speed, you kind of have to be careful where you dogfight. And in here, this demonstration is just low terrain with a bunch of fun. This is the brand new map that they introduced with the update. For some reason, it's some sort of enduring confrontation kind of setup. Anyway, my mate and I here have spotted an Su-25 after flying under a couple of bridges. And I just want to showcase the audacity that this Su-25 pilot has. He's going all for the walls here. He knows what he's doing. And that moment where that R-60 launched, I knew I was dead. The moment he started facing me, he just locked on and nailed. Anyway, let's get a couple of kills. There's the cannon, obviously misbehaving there, not quite getting kills, but at the same time I got that one anyway. Here it is again, although this time we're G-locking, so I highly recommend that you get an A screw for this thing, and there's a kill on the missile. Again, there isn't really much to write home about here. Oh no, it's an A-10s! Oh, it's A-10s! Run! No. No. You have to be very aware of your surroundings, unlike my squad mate there, and you really have to sort of push this aircraft to its limits in order to remain competitive. And obviously, with a limited amount of ammunition, you kind of can't do much. Anyway, we're going into some team play here. Hopefully the missile actually hits this guy. Lucky shot there. The explosion radius must have nailed him early on. It's an F-4C behind me, and there is a couple of other aircraft in this area of operation here. All of a sudden, A-5C comes out of nowhere and wants to play. It's probably your biggest adversary in terms of competitive flight models. The A-5C is obviously just a MiG-19 that's been cannibalised, but for the most part, he has countermeasures, and you don't. And this would have been a ripper of a shot had I actually turned just a fraction of a second earlier. been able to overcorrect. Now, AB's fired a missile, my squad mate, and he says it's coming in. It's probably hit him about here. Maybe? Yeah, there it is. And this just reminds me that this vehicle was introduced in update 1.87, or at least its predecessor, the Intech Dre variant. And it was introduced on the 12th of March 2019. Now, it feels like a forever ago time period when this machine was in operation, but it's good to feel that this machine now has a premium variant. It's good and accessible for newer players. I'm not opposed to having top-tier premiums, although there is a caveat to that. Obviously, you can't have stuff like the new 2S28 or whatever the hell that Russian premium tank is. This T2 is very much identical to its, well, Tech Tree counterpart, and that is fantastic because it doesn't really offer any advantage over any other players. It's still the same T2, still the same Tech Tree vehicle, but it gives you that flexibility and that sort of earnings and the premium time, and it isn't stupidly broken, and all round it is phenomenally recommended for people who want to grind down Japanese aviation or just have a close air support vehicle that allows them to do stuff like this, for example. Leading the Vulcan on that poor F8 allowed for some, well, questionable shots there. Obviously, it is highly recommended that you get this machine. Been seeing teams full of these things. Now, it isn't quite Su-25 level, but fans of Japanese aviation will obviously be appreciative of this machine. And while I don't necessarily like having a high-tier vehicles as being purchasable by, you know, new players, this isn't any different to the Tech Tree vehicle, so it really offers no benefit and reminds me of the time when this was introduced, or at least the previous T2, 12th of March 2019, and update 1.87 locked on. It was French helicopters, introduction of radar mechanics, and rank 7 ground vehicles. We were a little more innocent back then, hey? Anyway. Because this aircraft is incredibly versatile, you do seem to see a lot of interesting aircraft types that you verse. Obviously the premium A5s and the F5s, and then you've obviously got the Harriers, but you can also see Jaguars, you can also see Lightnings, as demonstrated in one of the earlier clips. But it's sort of that weird battle rating where everybody is flying premiums in order to unlock top tier jets. So 9.7, really your only biggest threat, unfortunately, is the two main attacker aircraft, that being obviously the A-10 with its AIM-9Ls, and then the fantastic Su-25 with its R-60s with all aspects. Although 2 kilometer, you know, sort of maybe 3 kilometer frontal aspect is probably its best job in which it can devastate. I still like flying my Su-25. But this thing out-accelerates most other aircraft, unless it's an A5C, which does tend to keep up. You really have to sort of distance yourself before coming back into a fight, and I highly recommend chucking in as much of an expert crew as you possibly can, so you can just, you know, utilize the aircraft to its better nature. Obviously, I'm not showing this in gameplay, trust me. If you want to see good gameplay, I'll leave a link to Defin's video. You'll probably get 20 to 30 kills in the thing. But suffice to say that this machine is capable, even though it doesn't really compete against the two main attackers. Now, you can do a bit of turn fighting, you can do a little bit of aerial dogfighting if you really must, but again, it's advised that you keep your speed up, you keep going, you out-engage the enemy with the incredible thrust of this thing, and the speed. Well, it's really its only main defense, unless you're coming against bullshit missiles. Anyway, so we're going to beat on this guy. We're going to try using the old turn fighting technique here. Obviously, he is in a bit of a pickle. He knows he's against a T2. I'm surprised the A-10 didn't turn around and come after me and missile me. Pulled off the afterburners here. Pull in, we lost control. Maybe we'll get him, maybe we won't. Who knows around about here. Just wait for him to get in front of our guns. Give me old Bert. There we go. And unfortunately, because we've left after the afterburner, we're doing a bit of dogfighting there, this Harrier behind me is basically getting me to forget about my situation. Which, I can't really outroll the Harrier, but also I can't really do anything against him. So let's dive out the way, and obviously don't do as I do here and pay attention to where you're flying. Anyway, if you want a 3% off discount and want this machine, link in the description. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching today's video. I'm Ash, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.